Arsenal are mentality monsters. Not the best first half for Arsenal, but that second half, going a goal down, bouncing back like that with 3 goals, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And Bukayo Saka once again proves he is world class. Now, all jokes aside now, no agenda. Call it what you want. This guy is world class. 2 assists and a goal today. 7 Premier League assists already this season. The creative maestro is being unlocked. Make sure you go down, smash that like button if you haven't already. If we get 1,000 likes, that would be absolutely glorious. And make sure you go down and you hit that subscribe button. 90% of everyone who's watched the content in the last 28 days is not subscribed. And the road to 30,000 subscribers is well and truly on. We're only 40 subscribers of 27.2k. Number of changes made for Arsenal today. And I think the changes probably were justified. Other players need game time. And once again, they've kind of gone into this 4-4-2 approach with Kai Havertz up front with Gabriel Jesus. A midfield 4, Bukayo Saka on the right, Raheem Sterling on the left, Jorginho and Declan Rice. And I think that's the first Premier League appearance at the Emirates starting for Raheem Sterling. Thomas Partey played right back. Of course, Timber has a knock. I think Ben White is still not fully fit. Gabriel and Saliba, Calafiori left back, and David Raya. An interesting lineup. I thought Arsenal may go with maybe Martinelli out on that left-hand side. He was really impactful when he come on. And you look at the bench, Arteta can lean on this bench now. Martinelli comes on, makes an instant impact. Leandro Trossard, we know his qualities. Mikel Merino getting more game time, nearly probably ready for a start. I imagine he'll start a game after the international break. And you've got Takehiro Tomiyasu as well for a defensive change. And this Southampton team were actually relatively confident. I'm not going to lie, they gave Arsenal a big test at sometimes in this game. Flynn Downs, obviously an ex-West Ham player. Aribo, I believe he was at Rangers. Kyle Walker-Peters, obviously ex-Spurs. Bednarak. And a familiar face returns to the Emirates of Aaron Ramsdale. An interesting lineup from Southampton. Gone to the back 5. Obviously, they're expecting a lot of shots coming at their goal. They're expecting to be under pressure a lot of time. And they actually, believe it or not, how Arsenal didn't score in that first half is beyond me. You look at the match stats, they had 29 shots at goal, 6 on target, 60% possession, 534 passes, very high pass accuracy in 89%. But Southampton had some opportunities. They hit the post when it was 1-1. They actually went 1-0 up. Fair play to Southampton. Obviously, Arsenal dominated the corners. And I think this lineup, that's going to be something you're going to see going forward in terms of the 4-4-2. I think Arteta's played that 3 or 4 times now this season in certain games. Obviously, playing up against low blocks, it seems to be working. Come back against Leicester, come back against Southampton, still undefeated in this Premier League season. And we need to talk about the goals in the game. Obviously, they went 1-0 down completely. When I saw the goal, it was, I don't want to say it was expected, but the first half, Arsenal absolutely dominated. It was goalless. Arsenal had possession upwards of 70% in that game. Aaron Ramsdale made a couple of good saves. They had a number of chances in that first half, but just weren't really taking it. And we've seen that a number of times from a lot of the bigger teams this season. City have been extremely wasteful. Liverpool have been relatively wasteful as well in some games. And Arsenal were a little bit wasteful in the first half. In the second half, however, they took their chances. And they go 1-0 down. A goal against the odds for Southampton, to be brutally honest. Sterling's dispossessed by, I think it was Fernandez. Southampton counter. Archer gets the ball and the left back cuts it back and finds the bottom right corner. And then when you talk about how's the mentality, how's the atmosphere in the stadium, how do Arsenal bounce back? And this is what I talk about when it comes to title winning sides. When you're down in the dumps, when you're under the cosh. And when I say under the cosh, the goal, I didn't think Arsenal would concede a goal today, let alone go 1-0 down. But how's the response? And I want to talk about Kai Havertz because he has been a very, very strong signing for us. I don't see any rival fans now ripping into him. That's his 4th Premier League goal of the season. I think he's got 7 in all comps. That's 20 goals in an Arsenal shirt now. Been a very, very good signing. And Bukayo Saka gets the assist. Kai Havertz for his 7th goal at the Emirates Stadium in a row. Saka nicks the ball off of, I think it was Flynn Downs. Arsenal counter, finds the German, and then that's it. Edge of the box. You know, lovely little strike, and they make it 1-1. And then after that, I thought there is only one winner. And this is where the game changed. Mikel Arteta takes off Raheem Sterling for Martinelli. Very good change. Jesus off for Leandro Trossard. And Mikel Merino on for Jorginho, just for a little bit more pace in the midfield. Jorginho is a very good controlling player, very good at controlling the tempo of the game, the midfield. But they needed a bit more of injection in pace. And they got that. And then Martinelli, Saka with a 2nd assist of the game. Martinelli sends Arsenal 2-1 up. Puts in a delicious cross. I think it was Saka who put the cross in. And Martinelli makes it 2-1. And then it was about game management, managing the game out. I think Southampton hit the post when it was 2-1. And they really tested Arsenal. To be fair today, they really tested Arsenal. But, you know, Arsenal flex their muscles, show their quality. Tomiyasu comes on for Partey. And then right at the end, just to put the nail in the coffin, just to bury any chance of a comeback, Bukayo Saka makes it 3-1, getting 2 assists and a goal today. Trossard drives at the heart of the Saints defense. And, you know, plays in Saka and he makes the finish. And that's now 7 assists and 2 goals in the opening 7 games for Bukayo Saka. An absolutely ridiculous return. People are going to come out and say, yeah, you stat padded against Southampton. I look at it more of he has been the creative spark since Odegaard has been absent. You know, ever since his absence in games, Bukayo Saka has really stepped up from a creative spark. Kai Havertz has stepped up. I do think Arsenal, in terms of that first half, have got to take their chances more. You know, Saka had a very, very good game today, and Arsenal now currently sits, as it stands, they're level on points with Manchester City on 17. The goal difference is very, very close at the top. We will be bringing up our match reaction to Liverpool probably later on tonight or early morning. And Arsenal have played 7 games, won 5, lost 0, drawn 2, scored 15, conceded 6. So 2 less than Manchester City, but 4 more than Liverpool. 2 goals conceded for Liverpool is absolutely ridiculous. And now we go off into the international break, and Arsenal will be happy with their opening 7 games. And if you think, if the 2 games they played, which they drew, if they had 11 men on the pitch, I believe Arsenal beat Manchester City and they beat Brighton, which would put them on 21 points. So they would be 4 points better off and 3 points above Liverpool, because I believe they have 10 men against Brighton. At the time, they were 1-0 up. 10 men completely changes the game. They were 2-1 up against Manchester City. 10 men completely changes the game. And they were 40 or 30 seconds off of beating Manchester City at the Emirates to make it. Would have been a huge win over them. And you look at their fixtures they've got coming up after the international break. I want to look at their next 6 or 7 games. You'd imagine Martin Odegaard would probably be back after the international break or early November. Mikel Merino, you'd imagine, would be back to full fitness. And you look at these fixtures, and Arsenal will be confident. They will be confident. Bournemouth away, tough game, but Arsenal seem to play some of their best football away from home in terms of they're very, very strong defensively. And it's actually crazy. When you look at Arsenal this season, they've been stronger defensively than they have at home. You know, 1-0 away against Spurs, 0-0 against Atalanta, 2-0 against Villa. They drew, obviously, at the Etihad. They spanked Bolton and Leicester and Southampton, and they beat PSG. And that's now 4 wins on the bounce for Arsenal. But you look at these fixtures they got coming up. I honestly believe they beat Bournemouth with a clean sheet. I think they spank Shakhtar Donetsk. And the Liverpool game is where we're really going to see what both Liverpool are made of under Arne Slot and how Arsenal approach this game. I then imagine they will heavily rotate against Preston, knowing the fact that they've got Newcastle away a few days later, a game which they lost last year at St. James's Park. And then these 3 games away from home is where you're going to see yet again the strength, the physicality of this Arsenal defensive midfield. Marino will be fully fit by then. Odegaard will be fully fit by then. Newcastle away, an absolutely ridiculous away ground to go to. They've already gotten a result off of Manchester City. They've already beaten Spurs. And then they play Inter Milan away, which I think is their toughest game of the, I was about to say Europa League, of the Champions League format, the first opening eight games. And then Chelsea away is another incredible, tough game. They're really firing on all cylinders. And then Nottingham Forest, which will kind of be set up for the counter-attacking style against Arsenal. So you'd imagine they go back into the 4-4-2 that they've been playing recently. And then a familiar face for Arsenal fans will be playing against Arsenal. And I don't mean familiar as in he's played for Arsenal. I mean it as in Arsenal have been heavily linked to Victor Gyökeres, and now he will be playing up against them so they can see live in the flesh what he's like up against that back line. And then West Ham away and Man United at home, Fulham away, Monaco at home. So I think Arsenal will be looking at these set of fixtures. I think they'll beat Bournemouth. I think they beat Shakhtar Donetsk. I think they beat Preston. I think they beat Newcastle. Chelsea away will be a very tough test for them because Chelsea have got the Conference League 3 or 4 days before, knowing the fact that they can play a completely different 11 because obviously the competition is weaker than the Champions League. And Liverpool will be an incredibly tough test because at the moment they aren't conceding goals. But then there's an argument from fans saying they haven't really played anyone. But I personally believe if you only beat what's in front of you, that's not necessarily your fault. That's in terms of the order of the fixtures. You can't really help that. And they have beaten everyone in front of them other than Nottingham Forest. But you'd imagine Arsenal would play a similar approach to Nottingham Forest, which is sit back and counter, knowing how strong their defense is. So I think Arsenal go into that Liverpool game as favourites as well. But right now, I honestly believe that Arsenal are making some really good strides. They're only 1 point off top of the Premier League. And I do stand by what I say. If Arsenal had 11 men on the pitch against Brighton and they had 11 men on the pitch against Manchester City, I personally believe they come away in both those games with 3 points. Because at the time of the red cards, the game was in Arsenal's control. They were 2-1 up against Manchester City at the Etihad. A fantastic response yet again from going behind. And this is what I say about the mentality in Arsenal is changing. They are so strong now. You know, Mikel Arteta has done a fantastic job at building this team and getting them into a title race. And they didn't go and spend hundreds of millions in the summer, but they have got better defensively. And I think they've got better options off the bench now. And we saw how strong that bench was today with the likes of Leandro Trossard and Gabriel Martinelli coming off. I think Sterling has still got a way to get his sharpness up. I think he will be a great addition for Arsenal. But at present, I just don't think he is, firing all the cylinders yet. But I think give it a couple of weeks and he may be there. Jorginho as well, he got a start today. And when you come back from the international break, I expect to see Declan Rice, Mikel Merino, and Martin Odegaard as that midfield three, which is one of the best midfield threes in Europe when they're all playing. Declan Rice is fantastic. Martin Odegaard is the creative spark. And Mikel Merino, it will be interesting who plays the 6 out of the 2 of those. But so far, so good. You'd imagine Timber and White will both be back after the international break as well. It's such a shame the international break comes at this time when everyone's Chelsea playing good football, Liverpool playing good football, Arsenal winning games. City look like, I know they won today, but I'm going to do a video on it.